Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sisterhood. Thanks for joining us. My name is Michelle. I'm your host, and we have my co host.
Hi, guys. I'm Rochelle, and I'm your co host for Sisters and Insurance. Welcome to our episode today.
Today's episode, we're going to talk about a professional goal. Well, we have professional goals, but what about our personal goals? Rochelle is going to be leading this conversation, and we just the background. Rochelle and I were prepping for this conversation and started to go down a path, and said, you know what? Let's just hit record. So I'm going to get this over to Rochelle.
Yeah, so today's topic, we're talking about, are you producing in the difference between living and production, right? And producing in your life. I think so many times, as people do, we segment our roles in life as a professional employee, as a parent, as a single or married person, right? I think early on in my career, my focus was career wise, right? Very driven in the sense of like wanting to do well in my roles that I was taking on, do well at the organizations that I was working for. But that gave way to me ignoring and neglecting my personal life. I remember one time I would literally go to work every weekend. Like every Saturday, I would be in the office for at least 4 hours, getting stuff knocked out that things I thought I couldn't accomplish during my regular work week. And so that could be one, me not managing my time wisely at work. And then two, me taking on the additional, things that I would be like, oh, sure, yes, because I could never say no, right? But then my personal life sacrifice,
Hmm.
like I wasn't dating, I didn't count, I only looked at the things that I was producing in my professional life as wins. I didn't say, "Oh, I had a date this weekend. I had a good win." Right? I think a lot of times, as women, professional women, women of color, we get in, we want to be successful, but there's a sacrifice. Someone's making sacrifices somewhere, whether it's your family or your dating life. Right? I told Michelle, I was like, I'm shocked I'm married because I was very focused and driven and like, you're in corporate America. You're not really being asked out by your colleagues, really. I mean, at least in my profession. Maybe other women have a different,
No.
perspective. So it isn't like the male colleagues in the workforce are like, hey, I'm interested. I work in this department. Would you like to go out on a date? Right? Wasn't doing that. And so I found myself at work a lot. And even one time, the person I was working for was like, look, I know you're single. I know right now you don't have a husband or any kids, but you have a family. You have a life outside of work. Start enjoying it. I mean, I wasn't receptive to
Hmm.
that advice until kind of like now, where I'm like, hey, I'm working Monday through Friday. I'm giving you my all. I'm going to do what I need to. But when I'm on vacation, I'm on vacation. Like beforehand, I'll be like, I'll have my work phone and cell
Mm.
phone with me. I can log in if there's something. I'm not doing that these days, right? Because I understand the balance of having a life where I'm happy that translates to me being happy at work as well too. In my younger years, I think I was very happy in a sense because I was making accomplishments at work, but I wasn't translating that same energy into personal. And I think in some ways you kind of suffer from that. And like I said, I'm kind of shocked I'm married. My husband was persistent, like from that piece of it. And I had matured a little
Well,
more.
we well, we know Harry, so he's a very lovely man. I love Harry.
Doesn't everyone love Harry from that perspective? But looking in
Everybody
that,
does.
like your production, right? You're producing in one area, but not maybe so much in the other. And finding the happy balance between the two where you're successful at both is, something early on I found very, you know, difficult to do in a sense of like I wasn't even putting any effort and time. I think when you're single, you do have to put the effort and time of being available to date or even asking someone on the date. The roles of gender roles are not so much black and white anymore, right? I think to me it was just like, oh, I'll get married one day, maybe. Early on, I'm like, I'll get married one day. Working on my career, and I was producing, but I wasn't productively living a good life in the sense of that. Like I wasn't enjoying like weekends and hanging out. I recently went on a boat. A girlfriend of mine chartered a boat for their birthday. I was like, this is I mean, I wasn't living my life. I mean, I know my counterparts, they were on boats on the weekends. I was like, this is what I was missing out on. Like, so it would be those things that now that I'm doing that people
Mhm.
have done earlier, hung out. Like, I was like, I've never been drunk before, blah, blah, blah. That's probably my type A personality piece right there. But just the younger things, like doing stupid stuff when you're younger, right? Because you're younger, you're able to rebound, things of that nature. But when you're in corporate, you're like, I can't do something stupid, like I can't get drunk at the work function. And then my name be passed around, and from that piece of it, you're like, we can't have that to happen. So I was very professional, very studious. I mean, I was not trying to live my best life. But now I understand that should be a happy balance between the two,
Well, if you
or give and take between the two.
yes, but in the thing that you got to think about is when we tie our self-worth to how successful we are at work. And
Mm-hmm.
that's part of it. It's like if you are successful at work and you are killing it and you are knocking it out the park and you are getting promoted and you're doing all that stuff, you're if we're tying our self-worth to that, that is where the focus is going to be. And when you look at your personal life and all that you've accomplished, but it doesn't turn into dollars that's paying your bills necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
And it's where you put that balance and where do you put the emphasis on work versus personal life. And like you were saying that you were very focused on your work life. I think I was kind of like laissez-faire with work life. I was just doing
Mm.
my own thing and I making sure I was hitting my stuff, but still making sure I was getting paid and making sure I was still having a lot of fun on the weekends. I had way too much fun at a certain point. Had to dial that back. Um, that was bleeding into a little bit too much into
It's
work.
work.
But I made sure like I had goals. I had goals that I wanted to get married. I wanted to have kids. I wanted to do all of this before I was 30 years old.
Mm.
And I accomplished that, but I didn't focus but I knew in my job life I didn't necessarily want to be a manager. I was like, I don't know if I want to be a manager. I don't know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing. I don't know if I like insurance. Granted, by that time I was already in insurance for like 8 years, so I'm like, what am I thinking? I'm
Exactly.
never leaving. So I'm just
Right.
doing my thing. I'm like, it has great benefits. I'm just making sure I'm performing the way I need to perform because I got married, had kids back to back, needed to make sure that I could provide for the family. And now I'm at that point where you were focusing on your career and making sure that you were getting that. And I was like, now I'm like, well, I got to make sure I'm focused on my career and
Mm-hmm.
get to that point because I hit all my personal goals, which was get married and have a family. Granted, those goals are still rolling because my kids are elementary school age, so I got to make sure that my other goal is to get make sure that they are functioning adults in society.
Study.
So that's going to be that's an ongoing goal right there. But now I'm trying to balance my professional and what are my professional goals? My professional goals aren't necessarily to um, be the high powered CEO of a big insurance company. My goal is to make the biggest impact in diversity inclusion or for women of color within the insurance industry. That is my goal at this current
That's my
stage.
page. Absolutely. And I think at different seasons, you know, definitely understand this looks differently. I'm just recounting when I was young in the industry, like not going on a
Hmm.
lot of dates and not like focusing like energy on like going out and have a good time. Like, someone probably would call me on a Wednesday and like, hey, let's go out and grab a drink or, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I got work tomorrow. Like, no. Like, I'm just thinking of myself. Like, I would say no, meaning I'm single, I don't have any kids. I'm not even traveling the next day or have anything big at work, but I'm like, it's a work week. I mean, I go out on the weekend. I mean, I could probably do something Thursday maybe, or Thursday is pushing it. If it's earlier, right after work, sure. But, Friday and Saturday would be, I mean, that, Michelle, sorry, I'm just being honest. This is a platform where you can bring your honesty and whole self to. That was me. That's why I say I'm shocked that I'm married, because I did devote a lot of time and I felt like I was always on like 3 steps behind my counterparts. So I was using the weekends to kind of catch up, educate myself, make sure I'm on point, make sure somebody has a question I can
Yeah.
answer, what the financials looks like. Like I was like, yeah, it was too much. It was too much marketing. What accounts do I have up, in line now? And I was focusing at work, just doing my underwriting or marketing, and I felt like the weekends was my time to play like, oh, things that I don't know. Let me make sure I understand what's in the industry and what's going on. And my counterparts weren't doing that, right? But that's a whole
Hmm.
self of like, oh, I'm representing everyone who looks like me. And I want to make sure that, if something happens and I leave, that they'll hire someone else who looks like me. And honestly, sometimes, you are representing, the whole of, although that's not fair, you are in a sense representing the whole, and you want to do a really great
No.
job because you don't want someone not get an opportunity who looks like you because you didn't do, a great job. Like, oh, we tried. Like my husband was talking about, he's in management in healthcare, and he was talking about this one person transitioning to a different role, and he's trying to support them into the next role that they want to do. And he was talking to his equivalent on that side of the house, and they were kind of like, well, we don't want her to bring the street. And I was like, what? And perception is everything, honey. Because I think traditionally she does, she's a woman of color. She traditionally, her hair is different, right? Maybe dialogue and how she talks is a little different.
Mm.
And I was like, what do they mean by that? And he's like, you know what that means. And he's like, I had to, and my husband is very good. He's very tactful. He's very intentional. So he's like, I had to explain to them and walk them through the scenario. Like, you cannot judge her based on other experiences or even one experience you may have exchanged with her. You have to understand, like, you need to judge her based on what she's bringing to the table. I'm her manager. You trust and understand me, then I think you would at least give her the benefit of the doubt and opportunity, right? Because she wants to move to a different segment of the
Hmm.
company. And so even there, I was like, wow, like, he advocating for her because they have a perception. And that goes down a little
See, this is why
deeper.
we love Harry.
Right, exactly. That goes a little deeper in that sense, but that piece of it, I was worried about the perception that I gave, and then potentially who would come after me, who potentially may look like me, and what that perception is. So I want to be known as a hard worker, ensure that I got stuff done. I was a go getter. And no matter what I did, wasn't like I just remember after all I did for this company and did really well. I was an outside opportunity that I was considering. And the person was like, oh, I don't feel like you have an entrepreneurial spirit. But I just showed you, explained to you my numbers, what I could do. Like, even still, I was still running into roadblocks from that piece of it. But I sacrificed a lot. Now that I look at it, I don't regret because I don't regret doing that. But had I had the knowledge that I have now, I would have made that a little different for myself, my personal life, right? But I can't complain. I am married. I'm happily married. So I just got lucky. God bless me to have luck there.
Well,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just yeah, a lot of things. If we knew now what we knew back then, it would have made things a
right.
lot easier for a lot of people.
But I think even to the bigger piece, like right, when you know better, you do better in that sense. But even the piece of the
Hmm.
climate that we are in, right? Being able to bring kind of like your whole self to work is, in some ways we like start to do that. We're kind of a little more shyer depending on what social settings we're in. But at the time, at this juncture, I'm like, you're gonna get what you're gonna get. This is me. I don't care. At this juncture, I'm gonna be tactful and respectful, of course, but I'm just going to live me and be who I am from that piece of it. I think you even made a good point in your comment. You said you were in 8 years and you didn't even know if you wanted to be in the industry. I had a good friend of mine asked me to speak to a young lady who was in the industry. She was probably like maybe 2 or 3 years in, and she was didn't have a really good experience, right? Being the only woman of color, being young, right? And she just felt like she didn't get the support she needed from her boss. She didn't really vibe with the team, things of that nature. So we were chatting, and my friend was trying to convince her like you should continue, give it another shot with a better manager. This will look differently. And she was like, I'm passionate about being creative and the arts and things of that nature. I was like, look, insurance is always going to be here, right? If you have a passion to do something else, you still live home with your parents, you got a safety net, go explore. At the end of the day, if you don't like it, you don't find what you need to on that side of the house, insurance will still be here. You've made enough connections that you can reconnect. I suggest maintaining those connections, throughout the, number of years that you're going to try to pursue this. But it's an opportunity. I would have never did that or never said that my younger self, right?
Mm,
I would have been like, girl, insurance is where it's at. You're going to be do well. Move up the ladder kind of thing. But it made myself self-aware these last
mhm.
2, 3 years with COVID, shows social unrest, that at the end of the day, I have to be true to myself first before I can be true to anyone or give anyone anything out of
Right.
me, right? I was like, just be true to yourself. If this isn't the field you want to be in, you've experienced it, experience something different, and it's okay. And I think my younger self, you don't realize that, and definitely as women, like, although you may make a mistake, it's okay. You can rebound, and even sometimes our consequences are different than others, but it's still okay. You can rebound from there. But I do know what it feels like to be in that hot seat when someone has a negative perception of you and trying to work toward changing that. And then it's
Yep.
hard work, right? It's a lot of hard work. So I always was like, okay, let me make sure I don't fall into that bucket again. But a lot of times it's that person as well too, because everyone has an off day. Everyone experiences something that you don't want to be. Your A game isn't always there. Mental stresses, right, could cause you not to be on your A game. And sometimes people are not as
Mhm.
forgiving as you think they should be.
Exactly, exactly. And it's funny that you gave that young lady advice. Um, yeah, I wish somebody had given me that advice. Not that well, I couldn't find my own way out of a brown paper bag if I needed to. So I didn't know where I was going. I don't know what I was doing. I needed some direction. I was lost. I was lost. And insurance just gave me grounding. It like gave me a job, it gave me a focus, it gave me something to do, and that is what I did. And I made the best out of it. And actually, I really enjoy my job. I really enjoy working with financial institutions and talking with them and being an expert in my field. I
Hmm.
really do enjoy it. Um, it just took a little bit longer to get to that path where I realized where I was going. And let me tell you, my early 20s, like I said, I could not find my own way out of a brown paper bag because I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just like, I just know I can't live in the suburbs. I need to be in the city. I need to go party.
Low
And
part.
I need a job to fund that party.
Oh, facts on that one, right? Facts on that one. But that's your time to
Yeah.
explore, kind of make the mistakes so you can rebound, things of that nature. I think even in my social circle of women, on the professional end, I think for all of us, like, we really went hard in the not partying piece. And that may be, I don't know if that's because we're from
Mhm.
a lot of my friends are from like inner city. I don't know if it was because combination of like we wanted one, I think we wanted to be successful, right, in our families, ensure that we paved the path because a lot of us have been supported by a lot of family members. I'm like first generation immediate family to go to college, complete college, right? So for me, it was like the
Mhm.
pressures of like not letting my family down, right? Like people have put so much into me, they've supported me, like, that piece of it, like aunts who didn't have extra money who found $30 to send me when I was in college, so it's like that social pressure of like because they want you to be successful. And then you have work pressures, right? So your personal kind of slides off to the side because you're focused on trying to be successful. Um, and I think all of us will also, in that group would say that, man, we definitely didn't really enjoy or live up to our 20s potential, right? But I think now that we're in middle age, as they say, we living our best
Mm.
lives out here. So we're living our best lives out here now. We're
Girl,
like,
so am I. I'm still living my best life.
exactly. So I
Still
mean,
living my best life. It doesn't
absolutely.
matter where I am. I'm still living my best life no matter where I am.
See, that's what you said. You did your 20s. You hung out like we definitely. I mean, I could probably count all of them and say like, did you? They were like, no, we was in the house. We was not in the streets. We were in the house.
Let me tell you. Let me tell you stories I have from my 20s. And I did share one with a team with me, stories. But that's the thing. Like, different people have different priorities. Like what I was saying
Mm-hmm.
earlier is that we have that value. We tie our value to our
Paycheck.
paycheck and our job,
Mm-hmm.
and are we tying our value? And like you're saying, you need to also tie the value to our personal and our personal goals, and our personal goals. It's all connected. Our personal, professional, our lives are connected, and even though we try to separate them as hard as we possibly can to bring ourselves to have the most fulfilling life that we possibly can have,
Okay.
because in the end of the day, you don't want to leave this earth and say, and this is my philosophy, you don't want to leave this earth and say that I have any regrets of what I did.
Did it.
A
Absolutely.
mistake is not a regret. A
Exactly.
mistake is a learning experience. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have done that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll do something else. But you don't want to have any regrets. You want to make sure that you are, if your professional goals are your goals, then that is your goal. But make sure that you also are balancing it with your personal, because if your personal goal the is to make a 3-point shot, I'm making it very basic here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, if it's to make a 3-point shot in basketball, okay, then that is your goal. You practice at that. It's the same thing. We are flexing our we're practicing, we're learning, and we're growing. And maybe, hey, maybe a goal of yours is to travel the world. Okay, well, let's see how we can make that happen. That's your personal goal. Can you make it a professional goal too?
Right.
Because there are jobs out there that will help you see the world, and you can travel and you can do all of that stuff. But it's all connected in my mind, and at the end of the day, I'm not living my life with regrets. I'm living my life having lived it.
Mhm. That part right there, having lived it,
So,
right? And that's important to the whole
mhm,
holistic view and evolution of yourself and understanding of things of like having the space of the mental awareness to understand when you're code switching and that maybe create some additional stress and pressures. And if
mhm,
that's the case, maybe you should stop, right? Mental awareness of saying maybe I've taken on too much and I need help. I need to sit with someone. I need to find resources to continue to stabilize my mental health, right? Because that's important, whether you're meditating, working out, eating healthy, things of that nature. And I think we tend to, when we get stressed, go to the unhealthy stuff, like, maybe drinking more, maybe eating unhealthy foods more than we would,
mhm,
right? Because we're all on this plateau of producing, in this environment, whether it's professional or personal, right? Everyone's in a sense, have these expectations of you. What are your expectations for yourself, right? Are you living the life that you want to live? Are you happy both professionally and personally? And people have to understand the difference between happiness, from that piece of it. There's certain points of things that make you happy, right? You get a great review, or a client give you win a deal, that keeps you happy. You're like, oh, I'm happy. But transitioning that happiness into being whole, and understanding that just because something doesn't happen shouldn't fluctuate your happiness and your sadness, right? Like, oh, you didn't get the deal. It's not the end of the world. Like, hey, I'll try it next time, or I'll see what strategy we need to use, right? And I think a
right,
lot of times, at least I hinged my happiness on if work
mhm,
was going well, I was happy. But if it wasn't, then I wasn't. But then I didn't have a social life to say, hey, well, I could blow off some steam. I could be happy in these,
mhm,
environments. I can get the support I needed, right? So it's the holistic view of yourself and
mhm,
understanding, what's important to you. What do you value? Are you tying your value to a monetary gain or accolades at work, right? From that piece of it and understanding the two dynamics.
mhm,
Having joy is one thing, but being happy is a different thing, right? I think when you settle and enjoy the ups and downs of the woes of being in corporate in your personal life, they would balance off, right? It isn't like I've had to learn over time, like
mhm,
I don't have to get sad and depressed because of this happened, right? It happened is not the best. Like I gave one of my girlfriends tip, and I was like, they're like, I had a great date with this person, blah blah blah, but they didn't call back or whatever. I said, well, live in the joy of you had a great day, you thought it was awesome and amazing, and if they didn't call back, guess what? It's not the end of your world. You'll move on to the next one, right? I think we so tie ourselves to happiness and
Mhm.
happiness based on certain things happening in our lives, and then we don't appreciate everything else that's happening, right? I've been working on growing this plant. I got one little bud
Right.
on it. I should celebrate that, right? Like you, like I tended to this plant. I've given it the love and nutrients, and now I'm being paid by having a bloom, for what I put into and understanding the things that you plant now, you may not see until later in decades. I think now, me being the professional that I was, it's kind
Mhm.
of paying off because I was, interviewing for a job, and the person I had never met, but they knew a lot of people in my network. And they were like, I reached out. They had nothing but positive and great things to say about working with you, So those are things like benefits, right? Of planting now, but reaping the harvest later, and understanding that the harvest later will come. But at
Right.
the same token, you have to understand you can't plant everything, because when harvest come, you won't be able to pick out everything. You gotta give it to, like I think that in that production piece, we produce so much,
Yep.
we're producing, but you have to understand too, when harvest time comes, you're not gonna be able to pick up everything. So you have to have that balance between planting enough, watering it, tendering it too, and then being able to reap,
Mhm.
because the tendering part is going to be the most draining, right? Of living up to these things that you planted and saying that I can take on
Right.
50 projects when you can't because you don't know how to say no, right? So have to look at that piece of it and finding balances where you can. Like life isn't perfect, and it's just not going to be a perfect balance between work and professional and your personal, but you can seek balances and take away when you need to, put in when you need to, and having that piece of it. So
Right.
anything else left to say, Michelle, regarding the difference between living and producing?
Well, all I can say is that I wish I had your work ethic when I was in my 20s.
We all have different paths, Michelle, but I wish I would have your personal experiences and turn up style when I was in my 20s. Because now at 40, I'm like, oh, should I try that? And I'm like, I don't know if I should be trying that, but that would probably been a 20 thing to do, right? And now I'm like,
No.
I don't think I want to try that.
Yeah, no.
Like, I don't think I want to go on this
No, no.
parasailing.
You don't want to try that when you're in your
Right,
40s.
exactly. I'm like, should I be parasailing?
Mm-mm, you don't want to do that now.
And then the underwriter in me was like, there's so many accidents. It's very high
Ooh.
exposure. Like people have caught, floated
Ooh.
into
Ooh, no, thank
cities
you.
and all this stuff. I'm like, and they've had broken, some haven't survived. I'm like, I don't know if I should be doing
Ooh.
parasailing, but in my
Oh,
20s,
no,
I was
no.
like,
Mm-mm.
let's put this parasail on and get
Mm-mm.
out of here.
Yeah. Mm-mm. No, thank you. There are certain things that I will not do. And but yeah, I look, we have reaped the benefits of the hard work. You've definitely reaped the benefits of the hard work, and I know it. As I said, like I did work hard when I was not when I do work hard, and I when I was in my 20s, I did work hard. I just didn't know where I was going
Right, which is
in
understandable. We
life.
all have
I just didn't know.
different paths
And
and different ways we arrive sometimes at the same, place. Like, your friends like, let's meet up at XYZ bar. All of us are not taking the same place to get there. All of us may take a different route or route, as some people may say, to get there, but
yeah,
ultimately you land at the place you need to be. It's just the way you traveled there.
exactly.
Right.
Exact. Thank you, bro. Thank you for making me feel a little bit better about my life.
I did the best I can. Now, here you had all that partying, and now you're a surfing couch on your mother's couch. I would be like, well, Michelle, well, back in your
Well,
20s,
look now. You would have been like, you would have been like, Michelle, what are you trying to do? And I was like, I don't know. I'm just trying to pay my
just
bills.
trying to pay. Can you pay my bills, right? And that sense of like even having joy at work,
I'm like,
right? And if you don't find yourself like really evaluating your job and saying, "Oh, I find some joy in this," maybe it's not the field for you. Even if you've been in there for 30 years, right? I still have joy and insurance and what I do, right? I
Right.
don't look at it just as a, yes, it's just a paycheck in the sense of that I'm not going to sweat the small stuff. I'm not going to go over beyond in the sense of like if someone, an agent comes out, you didn't win this deal. It's not going to be the end of my world, right? It's going to be like, hey, I didn't get that one, or that person isn't a mutual
Exactly.
inclusive relationship with me, give and take, because it should be that mutual inclusive relationship with your agent brokers. You shouldn't always be feeding them with quotes and them
Mm-hmm.
not giving you deals, right? So you have to find that strike a balance with the right partner,
Facts.
right? And
Facts.
so some of that discord or, uneasiness will be
Mm-hmm.
left when you find the right partnership. And that's what it's about, that partnership with the employer, who's going to value you for who you bring, your whole self and what you bring to the table, right? And understanding that you're a person just like anyone else. And if they
It,
can't value you, that's probably not the right company for you.
that's exactly it. And let me tell you, I also still find value and I find joy in making that deal. I don't know about anybody
That
else, but
deal,
making that deal is like,
your butter.
yes, that is my butter on my bread. I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. I love going out to these insureds. Love it. And I just talk to them about their industry. And I love the fact that we speak the same language, even though
The
I am
banker,
not a
right?
banker.
Absolutely.
Like they say it's and oh, I totally understand this. And right now we're talking about blockchain, cryptocurrency, and fintech and all this stuff, and how the banks are dealing with it, and X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, yes, and your authenticators and this and using the blockchain technology. Are you doing the peer? Who's validating? Who's your validator? How are the regulators doing this? And how is man gives me
That's what you're talking about.
like
That's right. It.
but Z formations.
That's what you're talking about right there,
That's
right? I mean, because you
it.
are value and you're bringing your
That
value
is
to the
what
table, and your client, your insured, sees the
right.
value that you bring to the table. And that's what it's about, crafting your craft, right?
Yes.
I'm not saying you get insurance and you just float. No, you craft your craft. You understand your industry segments. You're able to speak to it
Yep.
because that's what sells the client. Like, hey, they know our industry. They kind of understand. They know my woes. They can talk to me about my exposures that maybe I don't see, right? And that's bringing your whole self and value to the table. It's a topic that you like to discuss and talk about. I know you've done a ton of research, so definitely going to talk to you about blockchain technology and all that cryptocurrency because I have no clue about crypto and all that good
Girl,
stuff.
I got a whole one. I got a whole one notebook. I got a whole one notebook that we can talk about. So
Okay, absolutely. We can definitely dive
whole
into that
pages about
piece
cryptocurrency,
of it.
blockchain, and fintech. So
Right. And so you see how the shift is like she is being
but
productive in her workspace, but productive in the sense of a passion that she still likes, right? She likes the evolution of where FI has been from regular
mhm.
bank telling to ATMs to, card reader transaction to cryptocurrency,
Mhm.
blockchain, multi-factor authentication, things of that nature. And she's
Yeah.
bringing those resources that she learned
Yeah.
to the
Oh, whew.
table.
Talking to
And
insurance.
well, she's a little more excited than I am, folks, and there's nothing wrong with that. But bringing that to the table, and when you're
Oh, give me some talk about
and when
insurance.
you're passionate about something, it's just that so much easier. And now she could just be who she is. Like she's gonna walk into her client visit with her
Yeah.
braids, right? She's gonna come in, still be
Yep.
probably most educated at the table, right? And bringing the value she brings for her company to the table
Mhm.
for the insured and for others in her industry segment, and talk about um, a topic and product that she loves, right? And that's what we're talking about, the holistic piece of being in insurance in this insurance segment, but being your whole authentic self, right? Having the support you need to be yourself, coming in, talking about blockchain in your braids, or even making a sequelical to a culture identity, like, to something that would be, definite for Black culture, and not
Mhm.
feeling like a sting or not even caring, right? You're like, well, that's a part of me. Like, that was a little crack I made. Either you get the joke or not, or I might revert to a song that maybe, only people with certain uh, dynamics, may listen to, but bringing your whole self to the table, still walking away with your dignity, understanding that you are professional, understanding that you delivered and you provided, but you still were true to yourself and who you were.
Bravo,
Absolutely.
that is a fantastic way to end this
Segment, mic
conversation,
drop,
girl. Look
mic
at you.
drop. No. Right? Exactly. I'm gonna be like Obama in a second. Give me one of those.
Oh yeah, let's do that. Let's do
Right?
that.
Absolutely not. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Well, Ro, thank you so much for bringing up this topic. And as we've said before, like, comment, and share, and subscribe. Make sure that, ladies, talk to us. Let us know what topics you want to hear about. And we really enjoy this. Thank you again,
Thank you,
Ro.
Michelle.
And we
We
see
are
you,
you.
we hear you, we are you.
Absolutely. Next time, join us on the Sisterhood.
Yep.
Bye.